Hello, and welcome to the speed learning series of ServiceNow's third-party risk management. In every session of these series, we will share with you quick insights into must-know features of third-party risk management. This speed learning session will discuss how to manage third-party risk through tiering and IRQ process. All right, so the agenda for today's session is touching upon tiering assessments versus IRQs, looking at the OTB sample questionnaires that that comes along with the TPRM application, followed by triggering the tiering assessments and the IRQ assessments to the internal users, and responding to those assessments, followed by a quick demo. Moving on, let's understand what is tiering and IRQ process. So organizations use risk tiering to classify their third parties into categories of potential risk posed at the time of onboarding. The standard predefined risk tiers are very low, low, medium, high, and very high. Each risk tier has associated assessments, questions, and document requests. While IRQ is an internal questionnaire that improves the original tiering assessments process. IRQs enhance internal risk assessments with increased flexibility, control, and scalability. Unlike a tiering assessments, where external questionnaires are determined solely by the risk tier, an IRQ can dynamically trigger external questionnaires based on both respondents' answers and risk tier. So in TPRM lifecycle, IRQ or tiering process is initiated while you are determining the inherent risk, as you can see over here in the TPRM workflow and life cycle. Now, let's break down tiering versus IRQ process, right? So tiering is the foundational step in TPRM where third parties are initially categorized by their potential risk at the time of onboarding, right? So this broad classification based on factors like service criticality or data access, regulatory impact, or financial exposures and reputational concerns determines the subsequent due diligence activities that needs to be performed, right? So TPRM uses predefined tiers as we discussed in our previous slide, ranging from very low to very high for the initial assessment. And for the IRQ, which is inherent risk questionnaire in TPRM, is more granular and dynamic assessments that builds upon the initial tiering, right? So this internal questionnaire allows for deeper insights into specific third-party risks and crucially can automatically trigger targeted external questionnaires based on internal responses and the initial risk tier, right? So this provides greater flexibility and scalability in the risk evaluation. Now the table outlines some of the key features each process carries, right? So as we know, tiering is the initial broad categorization of risk at the time of onboarding, resulting in the risk tiering assignments. It's typically standardized and has less dynamic controls over subsequent actions. Unlike IRQ is deeper, more granular assessments that enhances the tiering. It occurs after initial tiering, offers high flexibility and control by dynamically triggering external questionnaires based on the internal answers and yields to a deeper risk insight. Now, TPRM is shift with out of the box sample questionnaire content to assist customers in their assessment creations. So as you can, the link for these sample questionnaires can be accessed on the document portal, which is provided over here. Now, when it comes to IRQ related questionnaires, we have around 7 sample questionnaires, out of which 3 are for onboarding, one for any additional due diligence you want to perform, one for renewal, and 2 for offboarding. There are around at the moment, as per the Yokohama release, we have around 68 questionnaires that you can use depending on your industry, geographical area, or the jurisdictions or particular nature of your operations. Now, these questionnaires are provided as part of the base system and are just to be treated as samples. However, we strongly recommend you to thoroughly review and make necessary changes as per your business before rolling it out to your business users. All right. So in the typical TPRM process workflow, we will be touching upon the IRQ process that's highlighted over here, right? So this involves sending the tiering or the IRQ assessments and responding to it, followed by an approval. All right. Now this slide illustrates 2 ways to initiate a tiering assessment. One from the vendor management workspace and the other one from the classic UI. Though the classic UI is still supported to an extent, we highly recommend you to make use of only the workspaces throughout your TPRM process. Now, the other thing which you may need to consider is to make sure you have approved the third party or the engagement request to perform your tiering assessments. We will see this in our demo. All right. So the personas involved in your tiering and IRQ processes are your TPRM manager, the assessor, reviewer, approver, and the business user, which is nothing but your internal users. Broadly speaking, TPRM manager who oversees the life cycle of your third parties and your engagement risk assessments, right? So they're responsible for reviewing, managing, and maintaining assessment records, as well as performing key setup activities, typically through no-code configurations to support risk management process. Now, the TPRM assessors are responsible for evaluating and managing your third parties and your engagement risk assessment. They play a critical role in identifying and analyzing potential risk to help ensure informed decision making. Similarly, reviewers support the third party engagement risk assessment process by contributing to the risk assessment evaluation. Right, so they assist in reviewing assessments, assessment responses, and help ensure completeness and accuracy before the assessment moves to the next phase. Now, the approvers are responsible for the final review and sign off of your third party or an engagement, right? They validate that all due diligence activities have been properly completed and ensure that the risk posture meets the organization's standards before approval. While the business users typically, who are involved in kicking off the due diligence request by putting in several processes in the motion, it could be for onboarding or it could be for renewal, reassessment of a third party or an engagement, and also offboarding. The TPRM processes are primarily driven and managed by these set of personas to fulfill their needs. All right, quick demo into tiering. So I would like to highlight the prerequisite over here is to make sure that there is already an engagement or a third party request that has been approved by your third party manager to trigger your tiering assessments. So what I've done is I've logged in as the third party risk manager. Now, as I said earlier, before you want to start with your tiering process, what is important is to make sure that the third party record is being created into this system, right? And that request can arise by any internal user requesting it from the employee portal. Now, once, say for example, the third party or the engagement request is approved, you can find the third party engagement or the third party request in your new request card over here, wherein you can click and you can start the onboarding process. So once you click on start onboarding process, what it does is creates the third party record, the engagement record, and also the third party contact. Now once it is all done, you can proceed with the tiering process. So you can access the home page. From the home page you can click on create tiering assessment. For now I'm just saying sample tiering, and you can add a short description over here. Then you can decide as to whom this has to be assigned to. I'm selecting it as the third party manager. Who is the assessor? In this case, I'll choose the business user, and this applies to where does this tiering applies to, whether it applies to your third party or to your engagement. You can pretty much select it over here. For now, I'm just selecting it as a third party. I'll select the third party which has been approved in the system. Say, for example, I'll say something, a third party called as Green Energy, and I say save. Once this is saved, you can check the details. You can also change the assessor if you want to. It can be any internal user, or it can be a third party manager as well, or an assessor, whoever is involved into your third party risk management program. And this is where you get into your tiering questionnaires. You can add a questionnaire. I'll be selecting a sample questionnaire for this demo. Now that this is done, you can also check the tiering scale. Now this can all be set by the while you are setting up your TPRM configurations. You can set up the scale for your tiering. Now that I've selected this and I say save, once it is saved, it is ready to submit. If you see, the questionnaire has been triggered to your business user. Let us log in as a business user. This is where I've logged in as a business user. I access the employee portal and I go to take surveys. And in the take surveys, I'm able to see something called a sample questionnaire. I will click on this and I say get started. Now, this is where, this just again a sample questionnaire. I'm just providing the responses to this. And then I say submit. Now that this has been submitted, this will go back to the third party manager to review. So we have logged in here as the third party risk manager, and you access the list view. From the list view, you can get into tiering risk assessment and check for all open. So you click all open, you should be able to see there is a response that has been provided by the assessor, and this is where You can go into this and see the responses that has been provided by your assessor, which is your internal user. Used now, if you see the inherent risk score goes to 30, and depending on the scale, if it is within 20 to 39, and this is where it gets 4, which is nothing but the tier rating that goes that says low. Now, in this case, if all is good, I can say close, and this tier rating will reflect onto your third party tier. So to access that, maybe what we can do is we can quickly go and check all your third parties. Say, so if you see here, the third party tier is reflecting as low. And now this is how you can set the third party tier. Even if you get into the record of your third party, it shows you the third party tier, which is nothing but is. What I also wanted to show you is where you can see the complete list of tier rating is probably you can go to your tiering assessments, and within here, go to the tiering assessment, go to the third party tiering scale, and from the edit columns, you can select the risk rating or the third party rating and say this is where you should be able to see the tier ratings as to how it is defined. If it is 1, it is very high. If it is 5, it is very low. Just an assessment to be sent out, which then responded will set the tiering rating for your third party, or it could be for your engagement as well. Moving back to the deck, now that we have discussed about how tiering is performed, we can move to the next section, that is triggering your IRQs. Now, again, so this slide again illustrates 2 ways to initiate your IRQ. You know, what the user would do is go to the workspace, access the list view, and click on the internal risk assessments. Then getting into the INA number, and then add the relevant questionnaire to the assessments and trigger it to the respective internal users. We'll see this in our next demo. Right. Since we are talking about IRQ, let's also discuss how you can convert your tiering assessments into IRQ. Right. So now where you can streamline your TPRM workspace by transitioning existing uh, risk tiering data to your inherent risk questionnaire format. Now, so as a vendor assessor, or it could be a manager as well, right? But the vendor assessor can also perform this, right? Who can update the task type of your tiering assessments to internal assessments in the TPRM application under the tiering assessments and all assessments. Note that this conversion leverages the legacy SNVDR risk assessment, VDR tiering assessment table, and populates the SNVDR risk assessment internal assessment table, which is nothing but a child of tiering table with a distinct sys underscore class underscore name of and 2 additional business rules which are provided, and it only accepts the questionnaire templates which are classified as the IRQ. We will see this in our demo in a while. But having said, TPRM also provides you the capability of, you know, converting your tiering assessments to your internal, uh, you know, uh, to your IRQs. Okay. All right, so again, a quick demo. We'll get into the instance and see how we can trigger an IRQ, how to convert your third-party risk, your tiering assessments to your IRQs. Now, again, just a quick check of the prerequisites. Uh, like earlier, while performing your tiering, we emphasized to make sure that you have a third party or an engagement request that has been approved. Okay, so what I've done is, again, I've logged in as a third party risk manager, and what I would do is I'll try to convert the tiering assessment to your IRQs. So for that, you can go to navigate to all, and in all, you can go to your third party risk management or simply type tiering. So once you type tiering, you can go to all assessments, your tiering assessments, and you will have to change the task type to internal assessment, from tiering assessment to internal. What you have to make a note here is you won't be able to change for the closed one because this have been all completed and the tiering is already been reflected. Now the ones which is not done, say the draft ones or something which is awaiting responses, can be changed to your IRQ. Say for example, I am choosing uh, third party as Acer, and can double click over here. This is tiering. You can type as internal assessment. And once you say internal assessment, you say save it. Now what it does is this assessment will be moved into your internal internal risk assessment. So you can save this. Now once it is done, you can this assessment will be moved. So I'll just say a quick refresh to make sure that this is gone out of here. So you say, I don't see Acer. Now this is moved to your IRQs. Now let's see where it is. So you go back to your vendor. Yeah, again, a quick note here, changing or converting your assessments from tiering to IRQ. Yes, you will need to use the classic UI. There's no option to do it from the workspace. So you go to your list view. I go under internal risk assessments and I say all open, and I say something which was awaiting response that was for Acer. I see, the tiering has been moved to your IRQ. Now, if you see here, the ones which have been moved from tiering to your IRQ, the number would be appended as, it will show you as VTA. But the one which are, uh, you know, have started your IRQs, uh, using your onboarding process, they will have the INA number like this. All right. So yeah, this could be the way where you can convert it to your IRQ. Now, going back to trigger the IRQs, right? So what you can do is you can go to your due diligence workspace out here, and if you see there are a number of IRQ processes which are already in progress, right? So how does this transition happens is, once you have a new request, you have approved the new request. After approving the new request, which is nothing but by starting your onboarding process, those assessments will be moved under your IRQ processes. And this is where you should be able to see all your IRQ processes. You can either open it from here, else you can always use the list view. And from the list view, you can get into your all open IRQs. Let's take an example for green energy, which we have used earlier. Now, this is the INA number. And click onto your INA number and fill in the details. You can always change the respondent here, right? If you want somebody else to be responding to this and not the business user, you can do it. And then you can add the questionnaires. Now let's add a questionnaire. So some of the sample questionnaires I'm using in this depot uh, is, say for example, I'm just using an IRQ third party engagement onboarding as one of it. And I say add. Once I say add, I'll say save. And now I'll say submit assessment. Now, once the assessment is submitted, your IRQ will be triggered to the respondent, who is nothing but the business user in this case. Going back to your business users employee portal, I go on, click on service, and this is where I receive IRQ third party engagement onboarding. This is for green energy. Click on this and I say get started. I'll start responding to the questionnaire, which is nothing but your IRQ questionnaire. Okay, and I say, so I'm done with this, and I say submit. All right, now that the response is submitted, we will review in by logging in as third-party manager. I go in as third-party manager. I go to the internal assessments and I click all open. In all open, I see there's something called as awaiting response. Is it okay? That is for green energy, which says, okay, response has been received. I get into this and I validate the responses. So you should see in your assessment instance, you have received the response. So as a manager, you can review the responses, what you have received. Once you are done with this, now you should see the internal risk score for this is stating as 75. So on the scale, whatever has been configured, if you look where the 75 falls into the risk category as high. And similarly, you should see the risk rating for your IRQ is reflecting as high. And once you say save, you can pretty much close this. Once you close, you can always go to your list view and all your uh, ratings will be reflecting in your inherent risk assessment list view. You can go to your all assessments. In your all assessments, look for greenhouse third party. Sorry, green energy, I guess. Yeah. So for the green energy, you should see your risk rating as 2. Now, a quick thing that I needed to call it out is there is also a capability which is where you can map a questionnaires response to trigger an external assessment. Say, for example, that you have gone through the IRQ process and for certain questions, say it could be your third party is potentially dealing with your data, right? And if the data is being housed within your third party's environment for certain reason, and if there is a question for it, and if the third party says yes, or it or your IRQ respondent, who could be your internal user, responding to one of the question as yes. So based on the question as response, you can also set a rule to trigger an assessment to your third parties that we will see in our upcoming demos. But to cover majorly as to how a tiering can be sent out and how it is responding and how it is reflecting. Similarly, how a IRQ process is initiated after uh, starting the onboarding process. You can send out the IRQ, getting the responses and getting the risk rating, the initial risk rating for your third party. This covers your IRQ as well. All right, moving back to the deck. Okay, so we have listed a few key resources that will help you in your implementation and for your better understanding. Now, a quick note in terms of disclaimer I wanted to add here is that, as you know, we are always in the process of bringing in new enhancements to all of our applications. Now, while TPRM is still using the classic assessments, we are elevating the assessment experience with more user-friendly capabilities in the near future by enabling a smart assessment engine for internal and external assessments. You will see this in our future short learning series. All right, so a quick recap and takeaways. As you have seen, we have gone through, understanding what is tiering versus IRQ. We have seen triggering and responding the tiering and IRQ assessment. Make sure you are leveraging the out of the box questionnaires as a quick win. You can always change those and uh, make changes to that before you roll it out to your business users. We have also seen it is quite easy to convert your tiering to your IRQ to make sure you're optimizing your TAPRM assessment processes. Finally, again, tiering and IRQ enables you to make smarter decisions to rate and further assess your third parties and engagements. All right. Thank you so much for your time on this. Hope this speed learning session has provided you some quick insights into tiering and IRQ assessment processes.